Hello everyone, welcome to POL 296R, Race and American Political Development. My name is Christopher Malone. I am the chair of the Department of Political Science here at the downtown campus of Pace University, and I am your professor for the semester. What I am going to do this semester is something a little different for me anyway, and that is I am going to be loading all of my lectures onto my YouTube channel for you to access there. I will be sending out, obviously, written work as well, and ideas and written lectures, but I thought, given the nature of technology and the vast improvement that we have through online course distribution, that I would try this as well. So let me start with a caveat. This is the first time I've ever done this. I'm not sure if I'm going to be good at it. I will do my best, but I will guarantee you that I will get better as the semester wears on, because I probably couldn't get much worse. So what I want to do today, though, is to lay out what the syllabus says and what I expect of you in the class. Certainly, if you have any questions, you can email them to me at your leisure. Why don't you do this? Why don't you either put your syllabus up on the screen and do a split screen with me, or if you have a hard copy in front of you, go ahead and do that. I did send the syllabus in an email. It is under course document, so you can access it in both ways there. First thing on the syllabus is my contact information. Physically, I'm on the New York City downtown campus Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I have office hours Monday 12 to 5. Wednesdays I have office hours 12 to 6, and Fridays I usually have a bunch of boring chairs meetings that I have to attend, but I am in and out of the office, and if physically you need to see me, we can make an appointment on Friday. Okay? Email cmalone@pace.edu, phone number 212-346-1146. So physically, if you need to get in touch, then that's where I am and when I am here. And obviously email is certainly a good way. The other thing that I should say is that I will be available for Skype sessions with any students who have Skype capabilities, and we can set that up on a one-on-one basis at your leisure. Okay. The syllabus itself, and I have it on my screen here above the camera, so I'm going to be accessing this. I start with two quotes, one from Thomas Jefferson, who hopefully all of us know who Thomas Jefferson is. The other is from Justice John Marshall Harlan, was the sole dissenter in a famous court case called Plessy versus Ferguson that we'll be reading later this semester. And it sort of frames what I think I want to accomplish in the class. Jefferson, even though he owned slaves, even though he was no racial egalitarian, really set the tone for American democracy when he said that all men, and let us say all men and women, are created equal, that we have inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, that is a beautiful idea, and that is a deeply American-held idea, but the question is, why, if that's the case, at least in Jefferson's mind, have we had this persistent racial discrimination? And if you look at the Harlan quote, in 1896 he talks about how our Constitution is colorblind and should not know races or classes or anything like that. But the other thing he says is that the white race deems itself superior, and it might be for all time. He's writing 115 years ago, so it is outdated, but I tend to want to problematize that issue of whether or not underneath the American social contract of universal equality, of liberty for all, etc., there is another contract, and what Charles Mills, someone that you are going to read within a few short weeks, a philosopher who wrote a book called The Racial Contract, whether or not there is something else besides the American social contract of universal equality on the other side, the dark side, if you will, called the racial contract. And that is sort of the frame of the class, this dilemma between a society that purports to uphold the ideals of universal equality. At the same time, we have had horrible persistence in racial discrimination. Let me say as a caveat, I understand that many groups have faced discrimination, whether it's religious intolerance, whether it's intolerance around sexual orientation. Women have obviously faced a history of discrimination, and other ethnic groups. But the course really will focus on race and American political development from the perspective of African Americans. because I think that this has been the American dilemma, that no other group has faced slavery, if you will, and the persistence of state-sponsored segregation the way that African Americans have. So I'm not discounting other groups. What I had to do with the class, obviously, is to make a choice, and this is certainly my choice in how we want to study what we're going to study this semester. The other thing I'll say before we go on to the requirements and whatnot is that this is a class on American political development, which is a field of political science that I write in. It's deeply historically focused. It is focused on how we've arrived at the present through a look at the past, but it's also focused on how American institutions have developed over time. So as you look at the readings, as you look at the titles of the themes, if you will, I am focused on how race has transformed institutions. So the presidency, for example, or the Supreme Court, or Congress, or political parties, or voting, or elections, and how institutions have responded to racial discrimination, positively or negatively. So while it's a historically focused class, it's also focused deeply on American institutions. Okay, I expect that most of you have taken an Intro to American Politics course. If you haven't, that's fine. You might have to get up to speed with some things. I will certainly help you with that if you need help. There might be some things I mentioned, people, places, etc., that you are not familiar with, but I don't know what's in your head until you tell me that you're having an issue or a problem. So feel free to reach out to me if anything that we say, anything we discuss, anything you read isn't making sense. Okay, look on to page 2. You see the objectives and the requirements and the learning outcomes. I'll let you look at that at your leisure. All I want to stress here is that my main focus is ensuring that you get out of this class with critical thinking skills, critical writing skills, critical reading skills. That's not to say that you get out of this class criticizing. Critical skills are very different. It's analytic, it's explanatory, it's descriptive, it's taking difficult material and putting it in your own words and then forming a very highly sophisticated viewpoint on that material. And that's what I want you to get out. I want you to develop your critical thinking skills in this class. Some of you have had classes with me physically here at PACE, and I always say, not only will you forget most of what you learn a few days after the class ends, but it's almost your God-given right to do that. That's fine. I know you're going to forget most of this stuff. Hopefully you'll take some of it with you into another class or into the future. But what I hope you don't lose is the skills that I'm trying to get you to develop. Okay? Let's go on to the required texts. These are at the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3. I sent you all an email last weekend about this. So there are 4 texts for the class. The first is called The Unsteady March. It's written by 2 political scientists, Phil Klinkner and Rogers Smith. I'm going to use this as sort of our textbook because it is a book that spans the history of the United States from 1619, the moment that a person of African descent stepped foot on the North American continent, to the present. And it is a very in-depth look at how race has played out over the history of the United States. But it is not simply a history book. It is a book with an argument. And the argument, very briefly and simply put, is that racial progress has only been made in about 3 instances in American history. And the authors lay this out in their intro, and you'll be reading that this coming week. But it is a very compelling idea that at other times we've actually taken what they say 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We always seem to move forward and then sort of have some of these retrogressions, if you will, and that's what Klinkner and Smith get at.